I'm Charity Jordan, the Prevention Education Coordinator here at Harmony House, Missouri's largest domestic violence shelter. And I am here with Amy Fouse of Motherhood Reclaimed. Welcome, Amy.
So glad to be here. Like she said, I am from Motherhood Reclaimed, working on a program called Bio-Parent Advocacy at Council of Churches. We're new around here, but really trying to work with moms and dads who have open children's division cases in Greene County. And we're talking about healthy relationships today, which is so important and goes right along with so many of the things that we see with the families and individuals that we work with.
Yeah, such great work that you're doing. I love that you have brought that support, that resource to the community. And as she said, today we're talking about healthy relationships. No one teaches you how to be in a relationship. You kind of just have to figure it out on your own. And what you see your family modeling, and so being aware of what those red flags are and what a healthy relationship looks like is so important. So hopefully if things start to go awry, you recognize that early on so that you can get out before things get dangerous.
Yeah, I think you know it when you see it, a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And you know it when you see an unhealthy relationship with your friends. But when it comes to your own relationship, sometimes those red flags are a little bit harder to see. And sometimes it's hard to even know what's healthy.
Exactly.
What is a healthy relationship? So I'm so excited to talk to you about this today. I think it relates so well to the clients that you all work with here, and then the families that I'm engaging with through this program too.
Oh, and this is why we're here to talk about it. So we're going to start out by talking about some of the red flags. Some of these are probably pretty obvious, and like you said, we know when we see them, but some you may not think of as being red flags. But hopefully by the end of this video, you will begin to recognize some of those red flags so that when you are in a relationship with someone, you will recognize them right away and can end that relationship before things get dangerous. So some of the red flags, one of the ones that is pretty common is intensity. And so this has to do with folks coming on really strong, moving too fast. They want to say, I love you right away. They are really progressing that relationship when you're not comfortable moving at that same pace. So, I mean, if two people, and some relationships do happen pretty quickly, but if you're not comfortable with that, and they're really wanting to move that faster than you're wanting to, that's a red flag.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. And it can feel just so much like romance and like being swept away. Sometimes we don't notice that one. Another one that I'm thinking of is betrayal. When you're finding that person that you're with is cheating, you're questioning things, you're seeing that they have secret social media accounts, all of those kinds of things. Those are red flags too.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it feels like maybe that's a part of everybody's relationship, but that's really not a healthy practice.
Exactly. Yeah. That is not. One of the other ones that, again, is pretty common is manipulation and coercion. And this is a pretty big one because it really gets to the heart of what domestic violence relationships are all about. People think it's sometimes about anger management maybe, but it's really about power and control. And so being able to manipulate someone or coerce them into doing things is one of the biggest ways and powerful ways that an abuser is able to do that. So anytime they are trying to influence your decisions, trying to get you to do things that you're not comfortable with, trying to get you to do things in the bedroom that you don't consent to, getting you to try and do things their way, really trying to manipulate your decisions, that is a huge red flag.
Yeah. And the disrespect too, and I think that goes along with that manipulation, coercion. Obviously, that's disrespectful.
Yes.
But when they're not respecting your boundaries, when this is my boundary, my personal boundary, this is something that's important to me, and they just step right over the top of that.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's another good point, Amy. That you're probably rarely going to see just one of these red flags. So if you see one, you're probably going to see others. There's going to be a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
But hopefully if you do see one or two, then your awareness is there, because that's where it all starts. So you have to start by being aware, and then you can start looking like what else is happening and putting together that picture. One of the other big ones that we see a lot when working with survivors is isolation. So often an abuser will really try to isolate people from their social networks, keep them from communicating with their friends and family, either in person, on social media, but really trying to keep them all to themselves. And that's just another way that they are able to control them, because then the only the only relationship that you have is with that abuser. And so then you feel isolated, and even if you know you're in trouble, because those relationships have been severed, you may not feel comfortable or feel like you can go to someone else and get help, because he's severed those relationships.
Yeah.
So this is a really big one.
And that possessiveness that goes along with it, where you're the only one I can trust. And I hear that from women that I've worked with, that they hear that from men that say, you're the only person I can depend on, you're the only person I can talk to, you're the only person that would understand. And they really feel trapped. So many of these women that I talk to are so caring and kind and open-hearted that they really feel touched, and they feel sort of desperate to help this person.
Yes.
And that possessiveness really can play a huge role.
Yeah, I didn't realize as we're going through this, I'm realizing how one just kind of leads into the next. And I love that you talked about how they can really want to help. Some of these things, at first, when they first appear, may not seem like a red flag, because someone's like, oh, I need you, and you're the only one that I can trust. That may feel good. It may make you feel needed and special or important, but it's also important to remember that you are not responsible for how someone else feels or how they're living their life. So that's a lot of pressure to put on a person.
Yes.
And so even though it initially might be something that you've witnessed in your family, other relationships, it might seem normal, it might feel good, it is also a red flag.
Yeah.
Which leads to another red flag, which is volatility. And so kind of these all lead up, they intensify these red flags. So it might start off talking about intensity, which sometimes involves love bombing, but it usually doesn't stay at that kind of innocent level. It intensifies. And so then you get to volatility, and that's where you're at a place in a relationship where you may feel like you're walking on eggshells. You don't know how they're going to respond. They may have a really disproportionate response when they're unhappy about something, and that's where things can really start to feel dangerous.
Oh yeah, I could see that. And that gaslighting that goes along with it, and that's kind of become a trend that we talked about more in society, but this idea of sort of making someone feel crazy and second guess their reality by saying, I didn't say that, I didn't, you said this, you didn't do that. Even moving objects in the home or manipulating anything that will cause a woman to question her sanity. That's
huge. And that's a really important one. And I always say, if you feel like something is off, if something doesn't feel right, if something makes you uncomfortable, listen to that, pay attention to that, regardless of what that person may be saying. Pay attention to that, because that is that little voice inside of you trying to protect you and send off warning bells. So gaslighting is a huge one. Sabotage is another one, where maybe that abuser will sabotage your friendships, your relationships. They might try and sabotage your work. Maybe they come to your work and they cause issues. It's where they're really trying to hamper progress, goals that you're trying to achieve, any success that you're trying to have, and cutting off all of those avenues, which kind of leads back into isolation. So it's kind of just one big jumble of red flags here.
Yeah, and I think our final point is the jealousy. And again, just kind of fits with all of these things. So you see that person becoming really jealous, not just of other maybe people you might be talking to that could be a romantic relationship, but friendships, time with the kids, anything like that, just anything that's taking away from them and this relationship that you have together.
Yeah. So those are some red flags. We've probably all experienced that or known someone that's been in a relationship where you see those red flags happening. So if you know someone who need help, listen to them, believe them, help them get help. Encourage them to call someone that they trust. Call an organization like us here at Harmony House so that they can get the help and support that they need.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's easier to see that in another relationship, right? It's a little bit harder to find these red flags in our own relationships. It's easy to see like, oh, my friend is experiencing this. sometimes a little bit harder to accept. Maybe we're in a relationship that could look like this, and to really take a close look at what's going on in our own life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move to a more positive side of this.
Yeah.
So we talked about red flags.
Sure.
Unhealthy relationships. Let's talk about what a healthy relationship looks like. And I feel like we should say that this isn't obviously an exhaustive list, but we're talking about some of the bigger things that maybe can be signposts as you're on your journey. So what are some signs of healthy relationships?
Well, I think there's trust there, where you trust one another, mutual trust, and it's built over time too. Trust isn't something that happens overnight, and when someone does something that breaks our trust, it's something that has to be slowly rebuilt. But there's trust in healthy relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And along with that, honesty and respect, I feel like these kind of all go together. You should be able to trust the person that you're with, and they should be respecting you and your boundaries, your values, your beliefs. So those are all signs of a healthy relationship.
Yeah. And then we see equality, where you each have a voice in the relationship too, where the other person isn't the one making all the decisions, but that you guys come together and make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Responsibility. You both share responsibility for your words, your actions, what's happening in the relationship, and it's not one person blaming another, but you share that.
Yeah, and you still have some independence. You have some ways to still be yourself, what hobbies that you like to participate in, you're still able to engage in. You have time with friends. You are still a whole person coming together with another whole person.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah. And then pace and space. So that relationship is moving at a level that feels comfortable for you. It's not moving too fast. You're not in a hurry to say I love you or to be sexual before you're ready. It's happening at a speed that you're both comfortable with.
Yeah, kind of the opposite of that intensity piece
yes,
we talked about.
Yes,
the
opposite of that.
And there's also that positive communication, so you can talk openly about things. If there's a conflict that comes up, you know that you all can work through that together. So you can bring up any kinds of topics and talk about them together and just be able to communicate well.
Yeah, that's such a huge one. And it can take a while to learn those communication skills.
Yes.
But that's such a positive sign in a relationship that you know that you can speak openly and honestly with each other, and it's going to be okay, and you're going to work out.
Yeah,
whatever comes. Well, Amy, I so appreciate you being with me today to talk about the red flags, but also the healthy signs of a relationship.
Well, thank you for having me. I think this topic is so important, especially to women who have children in care, in state care. We see this over and over again, and I know in talking with the courts and with the judges, this is something that's really important, and they said one of the main reasons why they feel a little bit unsafe sending kids back home is because sometimes folks are in unhealthy relationships, so this can be a huge thing. I did just want to throw out there, since we are a new organization, feel free to reach out if you are a parent and you have an open children's division case and you'd just like some support, encouragement. We have support groups, we have some healthy relationships classes, we have parenting classes, and then I do some one-on-one coaching and counseling with folks just to kind of work through trauma and the things that you're dealing with. Even if you didn't have trauma before, when you have kids go into care, that creates its own trauma. So you can reach me by phone or text at 417-501-6112, or you can go online to Council of Churches. We have a page that says Seek Help. You can click on that, and then the Bio-Parent Advocacy program's right underneath there. I'd be happy to talk with you and see how we can help too.
And here at Harmony House, if you are in a situation and you need some help and support, feel free to call our hotline, 417-864-SAFE. It is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so you will talk to a live human. And even if you don't need shelter, but you need some emotional support, you need information, call. They will be happy to talk to you anytime. Amy, thank you again. This was great.
Yes, thank you.